Hey everyone, Mr. Regan here, and today we are diving into some graphing for our iterative testing data as we look to figure out of the iterative tests that we've completed, which ones are the best, and more importantly, how is the data going to help us identify ways to improve our iterative testing and help us find the best one overall. So today we're going to be looking at how to record and graph the 4 sections of our iterative testing data in a Google Sheet, which we'll show you here in a second, and how to compare and contrast your data for strengths and weaknesses within your design. So in the next task, you're going to be adding an iterative graph Google Sheet to your drive, and you're going to be looking to collect a bunch of data and graph it so you can help pick your best overall design. So when you click on that link, it's going to look a lot like this. You're going to see here on the left side a blank set of bar graphs that we're going to be making along with some data that you're going to be inputting. And the graphs that we're going to create are going to be for the shell condition, total pod cost, and cargo damage. You'll see that in the next column that there's a set of information that we're going to be using to help us record and graph the results. And on the right side here, you're going to see there's an example of how to go ahead and complete this section. So please know that everything that you're going to do is going to be based on kind of the examples that you see here. So let's start with the results analysis. You're first going to pick out your 5 most successful iterative tests, or the versions of them. So similar to how you see here. So maybe it's your first test, 5th test, 9th, 10th test, 12th, and 15th, whatever they are, the 5 most successful in your eyes. You're then going to record what the force, mass, and velocity was for each of those tests. So you'll notice that the force, impact force for the first test was 490,000. For number 5, it was 100,000. For number 9, is 52,000, and so on. You're going to be looking at your iterative tests to help you find that information. So when you look at your your testing results, you'll have to go to your iterative tests and you'll have to see what you put in for your different results. You can even use your snapshot to find the ones that you feel are best. Now, once you have your results analysis here, underneath each version, so version 1, you're going to find all the graphing data that you need for the results. So for example, if you look at this, we have all these red boxes that represent the different results for the shell condition, pod cost, and cargo damage. So for example, if for the first version or the first iterative test, you dropped it and the shell condition was only building materials, you'll notice that I put 2 red boxes leading up to that result. So for example, if I wanted to do that for my first version here, I would click on the 2 boxes here, I'd go to the paint can, and I'd fill it with the red boxes. So I know that my version here only got building material for its shell condition. Okay. If your shell condition, for example, for version number 5 was watertight, I would do all 4. So that I can then compare and say, hey, version 1 had a lower rating for its shell condition, and version 5 had a higher rating. You should be able to kind of compare and contrast those different bars. You'll then go to total pod cost. Again, for version 1, we have the shell condition and we have the pod cost. So you'll notice that they go up by 500 in terms of overall cost. So for the first version, it was $2,100. But you'll notice it's at the $2,500 mark. Well, I can't put it at the $2,000 mark because it's more than $2,000, and I can't put it at the $3,000 mark because it's far less than $3,000. So what I'm going to do is go up to the $2,500 mark, and I'm going to put in there that it's actually $2,100. So I know this is about as high as the mark could be, but it's actually $2,100. For example, 5, you'll see it was $1,025, so I went up to the 1,000 mark and put in $1,025 in the box. And for version 9, it was 1,900, so I went up to 2,000. So again, if I have an example version here for my first one, and let's say it's $750, well, $750 is more than 500, so I'm going to make that red. Not that one. There we go. And then I'm going to type in $750 so I know exactly how much it was. So again, I can kind of compare and contrast and say, oh, look, my version 15 was very expensive at $26.50, and my version number 5 was a little less, was far less, excuse me, at $10.25. Then we're going to go to cargo damage. These are percents. Okay, so this is 50% all the way down to 0%. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through and record the percentage. So, for example, our version number 1 had 14% damage. So, again, I fill in the boxes with that red paint can, and then I type 14 because 14 is just under 15, but over 10. Okay. And then you'll notice that I can then compare and contrast. And I can identify, oh, version 1 had a lower percentage. Had a higher percentage compared to my version number 15, which had a percentage of 1. So, folks, that's how we go ahead and create the 4 different sections: the analysis, shell condition, pod cost, and cargo damage graphs and data results. When we compare, we can then look and see which ones had the overall best results. So, for example, our 5th one had a watertight shell condition. It was the least expensive, which is awesome. So I did really good with 2 of the criteria. But the 3rd one, I got 9%. So kind of high compared to my other ones at 14. And then I had 3 others that were lower than it at 6, 3, and 1. So I can then look and say, well, this one had a little bit higher cost at $12.50, and the shell condition not as great, only shade, but the percentage was 3. Is there a way maybe I can get it at 1, or can I drop the cost down a little bit more? So I can begin to see and compare and contrast all the different results for one version compared to another. So, folks, that's how we go ahead and record our results for the 4 sections: the analysis, the shell condition graph, the pod cost graph, and the cargo graph, and how I can compare one version to another based on how high or low the different bars are. So go ahead and take a second to understand how to record the 4 sections and how to compare and contrast your data. If the answer is yes, put it in green. If the answer is no, put it in yellow for one or both of those ideas. And if you have questions, reach out.